It's been 20 years since Pokémon Emerald, and it's very deserving of a remake. Oh, now we're talking. Welcome to Pokémon Gamma Emerald, a HD 2D remake of Pokémon Emerald that's in the works from solo developer Undreamed Panic. And just right off the bat from this very impressive title screen, I've got to say I'm very excited. What's very cool is as you progress through the game, the Pokemon that you have in your party will be stood alongside you on this title screen each time you boot the game up. A very nice touch. Now, before I dive too deep into what Gamma Emerald is, please just note that this is a demo that released just a couple of days ago. And especially as this is just developed by one guy, of course there will be bugs and glitches, that's going to happen. And I definitely did encounter some of these during my playthrough. Anyway, so the Gamma Emerald demo is essentially a proof of concept. It's got its own original story that will not tie into the final product. So the game starts with you on a boat in the seas somewhere between the Sinnoh region and the Hoenn region. Suddenly a big storm hits and then you crash and wash up on a mysterious island.
Wow, what a twist.
Not really.
Now the ship is obviously damaged and the captain sends you off on your way to go and investigate and look for help. You then make your way up the beach into the forest, and the first thing you notice immediately is just how fantastic this game actually looks. The HD 2D Octopath Traveler style was the art style that I wished Pokemon had gone in the first place, rather than towards the 3D graphics that we have in the modern Pokemon games. You can see the wind blowing the leaves, the trees move, it just feels alive. Anyway, you then stumble upon a little camp that appears to have been abandoned, and then you learn that this was abandoned by none other than Professor Birch. And of course, again, he's left his briefcase with the 3 Hoenn starters in it. So without hesitation, I chose my boy Trico. Been one of my favourite starters since day one, still love him here. And I have to say, it was just amazing to see these Pokemon in the fantastic pixel art style again. Now, it doesn't take you very long to figure out that Team Magma as well as some mercenaries have taken this island under control. And immediately after getting your starter, you have to fight some Team Magma grunts. And with that, our adventure begins. Stop Team Magma and the mercenaries and get our boat fixed so we can get on our way to the Hoenn region.
I mean, how hard can it be?
So now it was time to catch some wild Pokemon, so our first 2 that we encountered were a Wurmple and a Psyduck. And you know, we needed the numbers filled, so I had to catch them both. And one thing I absolutely love about this game, and it's just a small thing, is how the Pokeball is thrown. It can vary from Pokemon to Pokemon, but there's a proper animation, a hit back when the ball hits the Pokemon, and then you watch it go into the ball. It's just a very cool animation, and what's even cooler is seeing the Pokemon get knocked back by the ball. Again, much like the title screen showing your Pokemon, it's just a nice touch that makes this game feel polished. Polished in terms of visuals and animations, I mean, not in terms of actual gameplay, because that's very far from. So anyway, we start to fight our way through some more Team Magma grunts, until this happened. My Wurmple made a move on the Lotad, and the Lotad never hit back, we just got stuck. Which, unfortunately, is the first of many bugs I would go on to encounter during my playthrough. So this pretty much taught me that I need to make sure I'm saving the game after pretty much doing anything, because if something like this were to happen again, I wouldn't lose any progress. But because I didn't know that, I had to reset, and I was back to just having Trico. Now, just on a side note, that the version of the game you're seeing right now has actually been updated twice since this recording was done, so the developer has released multiple bug fixes and is definitely continuing on releasing more. But to be honest, I was more than happy to overlook any bugs anyway through my playthrough because I was just having a really good time. Visually, it was very pleasing. In terms of gameplay, aside from these moments, it's very fun and engaging. Now, before we go any further, if you want to see more Pokemon content in the future, hit that like button, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe and tap the bell for notifications. Anyway, so it was time for take 2 of catching some Pokemon, and this time around, oh damn. we encountered a shiny Wurmple. So of course I had to add this guy to my team. After this pretty epic victory, I would go on to replace the Psyduck that we lost when I had to reset the game, and would eventually get a Lotad and a Pikachu as well. So this demo still has its own complete story, and because of this, the rate that you get money and gain experience points felt a lot quicker. So it wasn't long before we then had a Grovyle, a Beautifly, a Lombre, and started to feel a bit more powerful. We would then enter the Ashen Forest, and oh damn, it looks so good. But unfortunately, the Ashen Forest is where we'd also face our biggest threat once again, and that is the game itself. You come across a Team Magma Grunt, who has found himself the HM for strength. So you fight him, he has a Rhyhorn, you defeat the Rhyhorn, and then afterwards the game just stopped.
You can't keep getting away with it!
I reset multiple times, I could not get past this fight. I would win, he'd say one line of dialogue, and then would just stand there in place. I couldn't move, he couldn't move, I never got my HM. It was ridiculous. I went to the comments page for the demo, a few other people had the same problem, and had yet to find a fix. So just out of morbid curiosity, I turned off the XP share setting. Don't judge me, I don't have that much time to play the game. It's easier for me to have the XP share on. So I turned that off, and it worked. I got through the fight, continued on as normal, and now had the ability to move boulders around. We would then proceed to encounter one of the mercenaries, and this was the hardest fight in the game so far. She had a Breloom. I love Breloom, he's just a goofy looking fella. She had a Gallade. Gallade's very cool. And unfortunately, again, once I'd hit Gallade, he never made another move, so I didn't get past this. I reset the game again, headed towards the fight, turned off XP share, and I just got past it. There was no fight there anymore. So I wonder, is that a setting to do with the XP share? Or was that just another glitch? Anyway, by this point my Grovyle had now evolved into a Sceptile, and we were ready to take on whatever was going to happen next. Unfortunately, what happened next was actually the biggest bug in the game that I'd encountered. It had reset my entire team to nothing.
Where the fuck is everyone?
All 6 members of my team were lifeless nothings called button text, and they were all set to level 5, so essentially I had no Pokemon. And at this point I'd put over 2 hours into this demo, so instead of restarting I took the decision to hang fire until I knew that there was a lot of bug fixes for the game, which thankfully are now releasing. Anyway, so that's the story of how my playthrough went, but how is the actual game? So yes, obviously the unique selling point of Gamma Emerald is its fantastic visuals, and it cannot be argued this game looks amazing. This is undeniably the art style that the Pokemon series should have gone in a long time ago. The overworld looks great, there's lots of great effects, the characters look fantastic, the Pokemon all look amazing, their animations are great, the move animations are fantastic, the Pokeball throwing animations are fantastic. Everything in terms of visuals is a fantastic upgrade on what we know from the series. And part of me, to be honest, is a little worried about Nintendo and Game Freak stepping in, because they know damn well that a fan's made a better looking game than they can. And it certainly would be a shame to see all this go to waste, so let's all just keep our fingers crossed for that one. Anyway, in terms of gameplay, when you're not encountering these weird bugs, the game plays really nicely. It's your standard Pokemon experience with some mild quality of life improvements to what was in the original Emerald, such as having the box available on you at all times so you can swap Pokemon out on the go. There's a new shiny Pokeball which ups your chances of catching a shiny when you encounter one, and in the future you should be able to edit moves on the fly as well. However, as it stands at the moment, there are quite a lot of bugs. Now, as I said previously, I am more than willing to overlook these bugs, but it does reach a point where it does start to get quite irritating. For example, there are some which are just quite funny. For example, when you start a trainer encounter, I had one of the Team Magma Grunts just walk past me and walk into the wall, and then the fight started. And another weird one is that when you approach certain patches of grass from the left, it automatically triggers an encounter, but if you go from any other direction, it's the same encounter rate as usual. It's very weird. But then you have the more game-breaking ones, such as dialogue not playing after fights, moves not being done in fights, and there's actually wild encounters that happen where nothing appears and your trainer is just stood there and doesn't throw out a Pokemon.
Fuck you, you just got pranked.
And every time you encounter one of these, you have to reset the game. I would imagine that by the time this video releases, most of these glitches should have been ironed out with updates anyway, but just as a warning, if you are going to play this, just make sure you save quite a lot just on the off chance anything like that does happen. And so that takes us to the end of our preview of Pokémon Gamma Emerald. This game is incredibly promising, and I really do hope the best for Undreamed Panic and the future of this game. And in an ideal world, let's hope that Nintendo look at this game and think, oh, maybe this is what the fans want, and the next Pokemon game actually looks like this. So what do you think of Pokemon Gamma Emerald? Are you excited to play it? Have you tried it yet? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe and tap that bell for notifications of my future uploads. I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.